And that can be really limiting because you're looking for a job that's fulfilling. You're looking for a job that aligns with your purpose or your calling, and nothing seems to stick and nothing seems to feel like that. Hey, everybody, welcome to Finding the Upside. I'm so happy you chose to join me today. I'm excited to get to sit with you and discuss another exciting topic. Today, on this episode, we are going to be talking about how you find your purpose and how to ensure that you don't get hung up trying to identify what that is. So, I've been thinking a lot about this recently, and I've been also listening to other podcasts, following a lot of other people that are commenting on this and talking about it. And I have to say that it is something that I think all of us at some point really struggle with and or try to define. And at sometimes I think it can be a sticky thing. So let me just kind of illustrate and give you some background as to why I landed on talking about this today. Whether you are on a path to find your purpose, meaning that you're trying to figure out what to do with your life, whether that's what you do for your work, what your calling is, if you feel called that your purpose is much bigger than what you're currently doing. Many times, a lot of us, and I know I wouldn't be honest if I didn't admit that when I came out of the corporate world, many of you know that I worked in corporate America for 20 years, felt very unfulfilled, and wanted, for various reasons, wanted to do something on my own. I wouldn't be completely forthcoming if I weren't telling you that part of that was the work that I was doing. I really didn't feel like it was contributing in any way. Yes, I had people that I had helped and people that I had guided and led and that had grown because of my leadership or had benefited because of something that I they were included on in a project that we did that was fulfilling, but like not really in a way where I felt like what I did every day was really having an impact on the world. I was in advertising and marketing, and I remember one night going out to dinner with a group of friends, and they were all in careers and work that really had some kind of fulfillment, and had some kind of contribution. So, like one owned a daycare. So every day she and her staff were shaping little young minds and um, really fostering their creativity and their imaginations. And that, of course, as she spoke about it, was so inspiring and it was rewarding to her. And she was having an impact on all those little people and their families as well, providing daycare to working parents. Like, you know, that that in itself is an inspiring task. Another one of my friends was in healthcare. She was a technician in ultrasound tech. So she helped people get the services they needed that might have identified something that needed attention before it turned into something absolutely serious. In some cases, her work might have saved somebody's life because of what she caught on an image or flagged on an image that then in turn, the medical professional who had referred them to her, or ordered that test ultimately got. And the other friend, she is a physical therapist and an occupational therapist working with children that have disabilities. So as they talked about their work, I was really hung up on the fact that I didn't feel like I was really contributing in the same way. And that was frustrating for me. So ultimately, that drove, along with a lot of other things, drove me to make my decision to move away from that world and be able to really have control of what I was doing and how I was contributing, not only to my own life and my family's life, and that was my destiny, but that I had more flexibility to really contribute in a way that I felt was more fulfilling to not only my own soul, but everyone that I impacted in terms of what I was doing and what my mission was. Now, here's part of the issue, though, in thinking about this. You know, a lot of people think that they have a calling or a purpose that they go for. And a lot of times, at least here, I know in our country, we place a lot of emphasis on career. And a lot of times it's your job. And I think also a lot of young people, and maybe us included, why, the path is that we take is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And what did you go to school for? And or did you go to school, or are you going to school? And many times people saying that they don't want to continue schooling because they don't know what they want to do with their life. And I think that one of the things that I've realized is that finding your purpose or finding your calling, I think a lot of people, myself included, get hung up on the fact that that has to be your job. And that can be really limiting because you're looking for a job that's fulfilling. You're looking for a job that aligns with your purpose or your calling, and nothing seems to stick and nothing seems to feel like that. But the thing is that your purpose and your calling can sit outside of your work, of your job. And that's something I realized only after I left my job. Like, I had a great job. It provided for my family. It kept me stuck there for a long time because of that. And I think when we are putting so much emphasis on our purpose or our calling having to be our job, that's a lot of times what stops us from being able to move forward because we feel that stuckness. Well, what if that job that you need, your family needs that stability, that income, that life insurance, health benefits for whatever reason, that job can provide for you, and your calling and your purpose can sit outside of your work. Now, I get it. You need to be able to have time to do that, right? But you can have a job that provides for you and provides a way for your family to thrive while finding your purpose outside of your work. And that may be the path for someone. And knowing that that's an opportunity, that could be a possibility, I think in a big way can help to clear the clutter, if you will, or clear the path for the people who are struggling to find their purpose to be able to do so. So I think it's important to consider that your work may be what you need to be able to find your purpose and your calling outside of your work, because that job may provide the stability that you need at that time in your life or your family's life. Now, my path is one that I had that job that allowed me to then create my own business and move on. And I think, and I talk about this a lot, that is an unbelievable way, an unbelievable method to do that. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is that finding your purpose and your calling, and by the way, you could have multiple, may in fact be on your journey to find your purpose. Like it's your journey that ends up helping you find your purpose. I'll give you a couple examples. Maybe you caught this episode, my series that I'm doing on this podcast, One Tough Chick. My friend Stacey Urig, who I had on the podcast that spoke about her path and her journey. She had a business with her family that ended up failing, and she had to close that business over 10 years ago. And in the last 4 or 5 years, through her journey of dealing with her own personal human experience and unraveling some of the things that she had gone through in her childhood, some trauma and things that she had to unravel, she ended up finding her way to a whole new career and a whole new purpose in the work that she does now. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's a spicy one. I encourage you to go listen to her story because it is one in that interview she really shares very genuinely and vulnerably. She's very vulnerable and she shares her story and that path of how she found that. She took her own struggles and ended up becoming a trauma recovery coach. And that was her journey, was one that then she found her purpose through that journey. That's a real world example, one that I know and is a friend of mine that, again, you can listen to on that episode of the podcast. But in another one that comes to mind is somebody in the public eye. If you don't know who she is, Jamie Kern Lima and her story. I was listening, I've seen her speak many times, but I also listened recently to a podcast that she was on where she shared her story again. And if you don't know her, she is the founder or was the founder of the largest cosmetic company. And it was the biggest purchase. I think it was something like $1.2 billion that L'Oreal purchased her company for. And she created that company because she had rosacea and couldn't find products that would help her and cover up her skin. And she ultimately, she was on camera. That's what she thought she wanted to do. She was a newscaster and an anchor, a news anchor. And through that experience of her having makeup that was not covering up and actually creasing and on camera, exposing her rosacea, her condition, and her skin. And it was a difficult uh, situation where that happened on camera, humiliating. But through that was what led her to create this company. And as she tells the story of when she created it, and again, her journey is really um, interesting and not without challenges, many challenges. And that's the point here, is that she talks about how finding her purpose was on that journey and it ended up becoming something that was not intended initially. It was that she ended up finding her way to that, which allowed her to create a company, yes, that had a product that was so successful, but it was in her journey to do that. She created this company that honestly, only 5% of the people that bought of her customers actually had the skin condition. 95% of her customers were just women that the product that she was selling connected with something in them in their soul. And what it was that she wanted the way she wanted to create the product and sell the product was to show her bare face, to show her rosacea, to show that imperfection, and to show that it's okay, that we're all okay, that no matter who you are, you're exactly who you're meant to be, exactly the way you are, you're worthy. And it was that came through in the product and her selling the product, why people connected with it and why 95% of the customers didn't actually need the product for the purpose that it was developed. So she talks about her purpose being to show more women that they're okay exactly as they are. And it was through that journey of creating that product and all of her struggle in doing that that she came to discover that as being her purpose. And she talks about following her knowing and all of that, which is really inspiring of how she kept going and her perseverance because she knew that this was something that was bigger than her that she had to do. So, why I wanted to talk about this today is I think that when we are in it and we're trying to figure out what our purpose or our calling is, I think that we could take a lot away from both of those two stories or examples that I shared. It was really important for me to share two examples, one that is a big public story, but one that's actually real world in my life that I witnessed with Stacy. And I think they're very similar in that through the struggles and the setbacks or the challenges, they ended up finding their true purpose that was aligning with what their calling was. And when you find what your calling or your purpose is, whatever it is that you're doing that really resonates and you feel that fulfillment, that's it. So now that can be helping people, that can be leading by example to show women that they're worthy the way they are. That can be, in Stacy's case, allowing people to know that even though, despite what they've gone through, they can be okay and they can heal and they can build resiliency through that trauma that they go through. In Jamie's story, it's building resiliency and strength through another path, through setbacks and no's and being rejected and all of those things. So, what's interesting about these two people is that when I hear Jamie speak, it's a lot of the same things that Stacy speaks about is having that determination and on that road of struggle, knowing that everything is happening for you. Everything happens for you, and it helps us build resiliency and strength. And we are through that journey able to truly find where we're meant to be. Lastly, what I want to say is I think we also get hung up, and I can definitely attest to this as well, is that, the perfection of having to have it exactly figured out and exactly right is a lot of times what holds us back as well. And I think one of the things that's important to remember is that it's okay if it's a fuzzy target. And Dean Graziosi talks about this, but even if you look at when you look through a camera, like a traditional camera, and you go to fiddle with the focus and it's kind of out of focus, but you can see it. You can see what you're trying to take a shot of and capture an image, but it's not quite in focus yet. And then you kind of turn it and turn it and turn it and turn it and play around, and then it finally comes into focus. I think we should be okay with a fuzzy target of where we're going to, something that's not quite fine tuned in terms of finally in focus. And it's okay to see it out there and see it out there, not perfect, and still go for it and walk towards it and experiment and twist and pivot and adjust and understanding that it can be that and embrace that is truly important to be able to not stop yourself on that journey because it truly will need to be a journey. And being able to embrace that and everything that comes along with it, that is how you find your purpose and your calling is one that is a path, and on that journey that it can have byproducts of a company, a product, a business, many failures, lots of things along the way, and that ultimately there can be a byproduct that is a great success. But what's the true purpose and calling through that journey that was created and found? So, being open to that and having an understanding that that is something that doesn't have to be perfected and figured out to start moving towards it is one of, I think, the most life changing, game changer pieces of advice that I think that we can give ourselves. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion. I look forward to seeing you again soon on another episode of Finding the Upside. Bye for now, friends.